I don't think that I would be where I am today if I didn't have an exec coach. I faked it for a while, and then it got to a certain point to where it's like, okay, I want to grow. What can you do as a leadership team to help me get to where I need to be?
So I want to dig right in. You did a presentation titled Fake It Till You Make It. Can you build on that, like the premise behind it and what it meant?
Yeah, so that particular talk was for women who are looking to get into, more senior levels of leadership. And that was taken from my own learnings. And so particularly the last job that I was in at the time I did the presentation, I was taking a more director level role. And I remember as I was going through the interview process thinking, I don't know that I can actually do this job, but I'm going to, and this is, I'm going to say this, but I was like, I'm going to act like a white man and I'm just going to say that I can do it and I'll get in the job and then I'll just like prove to them that I can do it. Right. So I had this whole mentality going through this interview process, every step of the process, like, just channel that you can do it whether or not you can do it. And I remember getting into the role and then thinking, holy crap, now I actually have to do this thing. And I faked it for a while, right? Like I faked it. There was things that I knew how to do or I could fake my way around. And then it got to a certain point to where it's like, okay, you faked as far as you can. And now you've got to have a set of skill sets that you don't actually have yet, right? And that was a moment where I had to sort of raise my hand and say, I have a deficit in this area and I want to grow. And so what can you do as a leadership team to help me get to where I need to be in order to execute well?
That's really interesting. When you reflect back on that moment where you realize, wait, I now have to be maybe even more authentic about this situation, what did it take within you to be able to raise your hand and say, okay, wait, I need to talk about this. I need more questions. I need more answers.
It was actually working with an exec coach. So the company at the time, they would cover an exec coach for anyone who was director level or above. And I remember that first conversation with my exec coach, which I ended up spending, at the end of that session, I cried for like 10 minutes. That's never what you expect going into an executive coaching session. But I went in and, we started talking about why I wanted to have an exec coach. And I said, I'm the first Black leader, period, at the organization. I'm the most senior Black person. And I feel like I have so much weight on me to be perfect. And in that perfection that I feel like I have to have, I'm not growing because I don't feel like I can raise my hand and say, I need help, right? And so we started to dig into, why do you feel that you've got all this weight and all this pressure on you? Because I'm pretty sure no one else is looking at you that way, right? And we started to dig into my background, my history. My dad was a Marine. I was a firstborn kid. There's like so many things that sort of went into how I was raised that I carried into the job. And in that moment, she sort of worked with me through why I had a hesitation about asking for help. And once we got past that hurdle, it was in that moment where I felt, okay, it's okay for me to say this. It doesn't mean that I'm not smart. It doesn't mean that I'm not capable. It just means that I'm not perfect. And not being perfect is an okay thing.
When you think back on that type of situation and thinking about what you would say to other people in similar situations, because we talked a little bit about imposter syndrome. What would be your advice for people who find themselves in these situations where they maybe don't feel vulnerable enough, or maybe the culture doesn't have affordance for that, for them to raise their hand and say, like, here I am, I need some help, and let's talk about this?
Yeah. So I think one is like having somebody who's outside. So whether it's outside the company or outside the situation that you trust, that you can have like an open dialogue and conversation about. So that's one. I also think like mentorship is really important, and finding someone who's been there, who's done that, who's gone through that experience and can sort of guide you through what to do next. In that particular situation, and in many situations throughout my career where I've been the one to be like, oh, I don't know that, but I am going to like go for that and figure it out. Like that's
Mhm.
just been the story of my career. And oftentimes I will seek out those people who have done it, who know it, and I have like a level of safety with that I can go and say, "Hey, can I ask you a question about this?" Or I'm in this situation, I need advice. So it really is finding the people that you can trust. It doesn't mean that they'll always be in the organization.
Mhm.
Sometimes they'll be outside of the
Yeah.
organization, but you do need that circle that you can go to support you.
Yeah. You mentioned executive coaching. Was that the first time you had an executive coach to help
Yes.
you? I've often thought that coaching is a critical unlock for leaders.
Mhm.
What's your thought on coaching and how it, and even you mentioned mentoring, right? How that plays into the journey, the career journey.
Yeah, for me, I don't think that I would be where I am today if I didn't have an exec coach. And this is just my experience with exec coaches. I don't know if this is like every experience that every person has with an exec coach. I think first of all, you have to find the right person who
Mhm.
you can build that rapport with to have those level of deep conversations. But we bring our whole selves to work,
Mhm.
whether we choose to or not. You are bringing your baggage, your history, your work experiences. You're bringing all of that into the door when you come into work. And so your outside life does affect who you are and how you show up.
Mhm.
And so the value of having a coach is being able to dig into you as an individual and what are the things that drive you? What are the things that are accelerators for you? What are the
Mhm.
things that are detractors from you? And how do you then become a better person? And
Yeah.
being a better person then makes you a better leader, a better employee, all those sorts of
Yeah.
things.